This video is sponsored by INTOTHEAM. Okay, look, I've already covered the GK61 on this channel, and then I covered the SK61, which was essentially a GK61 with better keycaps. But now we have the DK61, and it's just, there's a lot of these similar names, it gets confusing, but this thing is actually quite different from the GK61 in a handful of ways, some of which are very exciting. If you've been looking for some Gateron Yellow optical switch stuff, this is it. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you may have somewhat noticed the designs on a couple of shirts that I wear. These are shirts that I bought a while back from INTOTHEAM, and if it isn't obvious from how often I wear them, I really like these shirts. They've been some of my favorite t-shirts I've ever owned. Not too thick, not too thin, super soft, and the fit is super comfortable. So when INTOTHEAM reached out to sponsor a video, I happily accepted. They have a ton of designs to choose from. They even have a monthly t-shirt club where you get a shirt with a brand new design and the same fit and quality of all their other shirts for only $14.95 a month. And if you go to intotheam.com/portlygamer, you can even get your first month free. It's great, it's affordable, and you can cancel anytime. And if you use that link to buy anything else, you'll also get 20% off your purchase. So check the link in the description and the pinned comment below. This is the DK61 from Dierya, not to be confused with DK64. It is a 60% mechanical keyboard that uses Gateron Optical Switches. If you've seen my GK61 review, this is a very similar looking keyboard on the surface, and it does have the same switch type as the GK61 that I've reviewed in the past, but there are some differences here that we're going to go over. I'm going to go into some detail and tell you guys why you might want to look at this one over the competition. Thank you to Dierya for sending this keyboard out for review. You guys know my opinion is unbiased no matter what, even if the keyboard is sent to me or not. Inside the pretty sparkly box, you're going to of course receive the keyboard, an instruction manual, an L-shaped USB-C cable, which doesn't super make sense for this keyboard considering that the port is on the top where it usually would be, so I don't know why it's L-shaped, but it is. There's also a wire keycap puller, thank goodness, as well as one of these lengthy switch pullers, which in my opinion are much easier to use and much better than the typical switch pullers that you get. I didn't even know that these longer switch pullers exist, and then now that I do, I am spoiled and I will never go back to the little rinky-dink little metal half ring thing. And there are also two replacement switches inside, which are not the same color as the ones on the board. I think it's just like in case you wanted to test out one of two other types of switches, they threw that in the box for you. We're gonna get right into the exciting part, the goods, as it were, the switches. Like the GK61, the DK61 is equipped with Gateron optical switches. Optical switches are different from regular mechanical switches in that they use infrared technology. Basically, there's a piece of plastic at the bottom of the stem that goes down through the bottom of the switch, which blocks an infrared sensor on the PCB to send a signal to your computer telling it that you pressed a specific key. The advantage to optical switches is that they are supposed to last twice as long as regular mechanical switches. They are in theory supposed to be a little bit faster as well, and some would also argue that they feel a little bit smoother stock versus the regular 3-pin Gateron switches at least. The GK61 that I reviewed previously had Gateron optical red, brown, and blue switches. I think there are new versions now that offer new types, but this DK61 that I have here has Gateron optical yellow switches. Now that is not to be confused with Gateron yellow switches as in the regular 3-pin type. There are some differences that I'm going to go over here. Traditional Gateron yellow 3-pin switches actually have a heavier actuation force than their typical red switches at 50 grams versus 45 grams. But the optical yellows are lighter at 35 grams, which technically would make them faster than reds. Supposedly, these are the fastest switches you can get. The reason that regular Gateron yellows are very popular these days versus optical yellows is not because of their speed, but because of their smoothness out of the box. They're considered to be some of the smoothest budget price stock switches that you can buy out of the box without having to lube them. Now that doesn't mean that the optical ones are not as smooth. In fact, I'd say that they are very smooth and they're very light and crispy feeling, but it's hard for me personally to feel if they really are smooth or scratchy at all because they are so light that you're pressing them really easily that even if there is some scratchiness, I feel like you can really look past that. Now the DK61 is hot swappable, so if you do buy a version with maybe different switches than the yellows, or maybe you want to mix up some switches, or you want to change the yellows out for silvers or what have you, you can do that. You just need to make sure that you're sticking to Gateron optical switches specifically. That is a disadvantage of an optical switch keyboard. This board is not built to handle just regular 3-pin switches. It's not going to work. But if you're an enthusiast who wants that level, who you want those types of switches, you're not here watching this video for that. You're watching this video because you want the fast switches for your games, for your Fortnites and your Call of Duties and your bug snacks, I guess. It really is light and fast, almost too light sometimes, where my fat hands end up resting on the WASD, and without even really noticing, I end up pressing one of them. It got kind of annoying sometimes, just for me personally, because I am heavy-handed, obviously. I mean, look at these mitts. But if you're lighter-handed and maybe you can get used to that, it's really not going to be an issue. If you're here for speed, you want just the fastest switches that you can get, this is going to be a great contender. Now, aside from these switch options, there are some differences here between the DK61 and the GK61 that I think make it stand out as something that I would pick over the GK61. For one, it's not glossy. I mean, I understand that there are GK61s out there that apparently don't have a glossy case like mine did. From what I'm learning since making that video, there are just, depending on where you buy certain keyboards, you might end up having some different variations like that. But one of the biggest advantages of this one versus the GK61 is the keycaps. Say maybe you like the SK61, but you didn't like the keycaps, maybe you don't like the DSA profile and you want something simple and clean and black. Well, these do not have the nasty, glossy ABS keycaps that the GK61 had. These are PBT keycaps, and while they're not the best keycaps I've ever used, I would say that these are a definite upgrade from the GK61. The font just looks better, it looks cleaner, it doesn't try to go for anything gamery, it's just simple and straightforward. They also feel really smooth. They have a slight texture to them, but nothing that's really going to invade your privacy when it comes to your fingertips. But for stock keycaps included with a pre-built keyboard, I'd say you're getting some good keycaps here. I don't know, the matte black all around makes it look a little more sleek, a little more premium. The stabilizers sound okay. The spacebar, I mean, the spacebar just always has trouble and it doesn't sound all that good. As far as the others like backspace and enter and shift, they sound fine. They're not great, but they sound okay for stock stabilizers. And they feel better than they sound, I'll give it that much. I will say that there hasn't been any flex, any creak, any wobble really. Maybe a little bit of wobble, but it's not super noticeable. There is software available for the DK61, which I will link in the description below. It is actually not the same software that you see for the GK61, SK61, all those other GK61 clones that have the same type of software. This is actually Dierya branded software that is made specifically for their keyboards. Now, one thing about this software that may be hit or miss with some of you is that it is very simple. You don't get the customization as far as layers that you would with the GK61. You don't get the lighting customization that you would. It's basically all the stock lighting that you would get on the keyboard by pressing the keys on it, but it's just that you have the option of clicking it on the screen and choosing that as your preset. Some of you may not like that because maybe you want a keyboard that you can customize to your heart's content. I personally prefer this in a way because I like keyboards that are simple and straightforward. Customization and options, like I always say, are nice, but sometimes you just want to plug it in and just go and not worry about all that. And I will say that out of the box, the lighting options and hotkeys and the various layer keys as well all work very nice. I haven't felt any need to tweak any of them. You've got media keys like your play, pause, fast forward, and volume control. You've got your lighting controls all on the keyboard. You're able to adjust the brightness, the speed, change the effect, change the colors of any static color effects. And of course, if you hold function and press question mark, left alt menu, or left control, that all functions as arrow keys. Now for only around $50 to $60 from what I've seen online, I'd say all around you're getting a great package here. A simple, straightforward RGB keyboard with some very smooth, very fast switches, as well as the option to swap out any other Gateron optical switches if you so choose. There is a Bluetooth version available, mine is not, so don't ask me how to do the Bluetooth, I don't have it in front of me here, but it's out there, it exists. Now you know I like the GK61, it was my main keyboard for some time after I reviewed it, but I will say that this is an upgrade, in my opinion, for around the same price as well. You might be trading off the software customization, but say you're on a budget and you just want a 60% keyboard with better keycaps and better switch options without having to go and buy custom keycaps or buy other switches, you just want it all to work out of the box. This is a great option for a 60% keyboard that checks all those boxes. Thank you again to Dierya for sending this keyboard for review. In addition, they also sent me a handful of Gateron Optical Silver switches to put in the board to compare to the Gateron Optical Yellows in a future video, which I'm going to get out as soon as possible. I got a lot of videos to work on, so be patient with me. If you like this video, consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. It is a big help to the channel. There are affiliate links in the description that you can use as well to pick up the keyboard if you so choose. And depending on when you're watching this video, Dierya also has some Black Friday sales going on, so be sure to check those out. So what do you think of this keyboard? Do you have the GK61 or have you been looking at it? Maybe you're looking at this one now. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'd love to hear your opinions. Just be kind to me and be kind to each other. It's the holidays, folks. Everybody put a smile on. In the words of the great Ronald McDonald, put a smile on. Everybody, come on. Is my audience even old enough to remember that commercial? If you like this video, you can check out the GK61 review here, or you can check out this review here, which is something totally different, just for funsies. I'm gonna go now. I have another keyboard video to film immediately after this. No rest for the best of the best. Or for me.